My name is Yodahe. I like to thank the people who made this happen, Mr. Gamachu, Ms. Yodit, and the other coordinators whose names I do not know. This is a very good forum. We need to have more and more of this. I'm sure our friends in Kenya, they'd have like 10 of these sessions in one morning. In Ethiopia, this is what we lack. We need to have more forums. It should not be an annual summit. It should be a monthly, a weekly, daily, maybe too much, but it should be, we need to have this because what's important here is we're bringing together executives from banks, entrepreneurs from fintechs, government officials. All sorts of synergies can happen here. So it's a very important forum, and thank you, the audience. Time is money, so you're paying your 10 minutes to me, and I hope to make it worth your while. How many of you have heard of digital ID, the Ethiopian digital ID? That's a very good number. I'm happy to see all those hands. So Ethiopian digital ID, I will briefly explain, give a small introduction, and I will end it by telling you what we expect from you as industry leaders, as officials, and as executives. So it has some history. It's not a new project in Ethiopia. In fact, it has more than 12 years of history. Digital ID has existed in one form or another. But this new concept, before we used to call it national ID, now we call it digital ID. There is a reason for that. So in the last five years, it's being run with a new philosophy to support banks, to support insurance companies, fintechs, you name it, any KYC, any service provider that has KYC need. So it's more oriented towards digital transaction, towards digital identification, towards single sign-on and trust framework. So if I say this about the history, let me talk about the vision. We hope to issue digital IDs to all those that need it by 2025. Our target is 70 million. Our mission is to issue a unique identifier that will serve as a primary proof of identity to access services. Here we've said proof of identity. It's not a proof of address. It does not prove whether I live in Bakoji or Gondar. It only proves my name is Yodahe and I'm a unique individual. The objective is to prove identity and offer the trust framework. We're working on a digital ID law that we're taking inputs from the public. I'll share a link at the end of this presentation. So the governance and the transparency is very important to us. Talk a little bit about this. I think you are one slide ahead. Correct, yeah, there. I thought, yeah, I was presenting from my laptop. So data sets, we have three data that we're collecting. The first one, we call it demographic category. So we only collect basic data. We don't collect data that's, for instance, for the banking sector. The bank would like to know your income status, your occupation. That's sector-specific information, and we don't collect. For the health sector, they would like to collect your health information. For education sector, they would like to know what's your level of education. But for us, we only focus on our businesses identifying individuals. So we only focus on the basic. We, for the section of the population that can provide documents, we collect that document, scan it, and put it in the system. We also collect, and most important here is the mandatory requirement is this biometrics. We collect facial photos, fingerprints, and iris, dual iris, and the most important thing here is the philosophy we follow. It's called "You can only lie once." If you say your name is Abeba today, we take it as it is. We trust you, but tomorrow you cannot come back, or 10 years later we cannot come back with a different name or a different identity. The ecosystem, the primary parties are the residents of Ethiopia. The second ones are the relying parties. By relying party, we mean the banks or the fintechs that will ask, are you Mr. Yodahe or not? The question comes from the service provider. When I'm a customer and I go to a fintech, so those are called relying parties. The one that rely on the ID platform to know whether a customer is who they say they are. The third one is identity. We call them the IDPs. So the national ID program is only the coordinator. Our architecture is federated. That means we are not the only ones that authenticate people or that give response to the relying parties. We make sure other banks, other entities with the sufficient infrastructure can serve as IDPs. So with or without us, identity verification and KYC can go on. And the fourth one is tech vendors. We have a platform called MOSIP. We've been working on this open source platform for a while. It's something that we are very proud of. We now call it FIDA. We've made it, we've customized it and we've made it our own. We call this platform FIDA. It was originally developed in India, but we've been working on it for 2.5 years now. It's the only open source solution globally that serves as an ID management system. So in the interest of time, let me just skip a few slides here. So this is the process flow. The most important thing here is we have two major categories to our work. First, we onboard people. Once a person has an ID, they have to go, as I said, to the fintech or to any service provider and then get service. We call that service authentication, the eKYC. So, by the way, this slide is online, so anyone can access it. I'll share a link at the end. So the overall, let me jump to, this is our current phase of the pilot. Yes, there. So this is our current phase of the pilot. By June, we plan to target 100,000 people. It's a very small number to 100 million people nation, we understand. But everyone has to start somewhere. Hopefully by next year, this will be a 7-digit number. We plan to hit somewhere around 10 million at the end of 2015 Ethiopian fiscal year. That would be mid-2023, if I'm not mistaken. So let me skip to the timeline. So as I said earlier, we plan to reach 70 million people by end of 2025. That's a little bit less than 4 years we have left. And how do we get there? We get there through you, through the service providers, through the relying parties, through what we call the IDPs, the identification providers. So I would like to use this opportunity to those who have not yet engaged with us, especially with a sizable number of customers, to initiate an interaction with us so that we can start a pilot. We do not have a strategy to open national ID office everywhere. We plan to use the telecom shops, the bank branches, and the post office offices to onboard people. So it's very important to us to reach 70 million. We need this sector and this community to work with us. So yeah, that being said, we also have international partners in addition to you, other partners that are supporting us in our work. Some of them are, for instance, the World Bank and UNECA. I'm not sure if we have a representative from UNECA here who are supporting us. So here is a couple of links. Last slide, yes. So on this website, we're so classified you cannot find us on Google. But if you type this in your browser, you can find some links. You can also find a link to this presentation. The working legal document we're working on, it's in the documents/documents URL. You'll also find some specifications that we're already sharing with the banks. We do not plan, for instance, in the last link, in the last URL, you can find our API documentation for anyone, for any fintech or bank that's interested to test the national ID API. There is a sandbox environment set up, so you can go there and test it. And we really hope that in the next 2-3 years, this project will bring in financial inclusion, as well as efficiency for the formal banking sector. Thank you.